So what are they hiding? Left-wing media really wants you to ignore the inconsistencies and reporting around the bridge collapse story. What is really going on here? So anytime the left-wing media, by the way, tells you to look one way, I always want to look the other way. So almost immediately after the crash, President Biden came out, gave a press conference like first thing in the morning before his flight, where he said the federal government would pay the full bill for this crash. The full bill. Really? The federal government is footing the bill 100% for this? I don't seem to remember him doing this for the people of East Palestine, Ohio, after Norfolk Southern train derailed. No one, remember when we had, of course, the massive disaster there. Did you guys remember that? I don't remember the Biden administration coming back. You know what? We're going to rebuild your community. No questions asked. We're going to take care of everything and we're going to rebuild. No.
Good point.
Biden didn't go there. In fact, he didn't even go there for a year. People are like, when are you going to actually go to East Palestine, Ohio? And then when he did go there, what did he do? He called out Norfolk Southern as greedy. That's what he did. He basically said that it was their fault. They're greedy. So, okay, quite a different tone. Also the same thing in Hawaii, the Lahaina fires. I mean, I could go down a laundry list of instances where this bridge collapse in Baltimore is kind of different, don't you think? Ohio residents had been calling on Biden to declare a federal disaster, seek help from the EPA, because many people are now experiencing life-altering health problems. So before his appearance there just a few weeks ago, the residents are like, can you have the EPA issue some sort of investigation here? Because we're suffering all kinds of health problems here. So it's very strange that Biden came right out and immediately declared federal money and a response. Watch.
I spoke with Governor Moore this morning, as well as the mayor of Baltimore, the county executive, both United States senators and the congressman. And my Secretary of Transportation is on the scene. I told them we're going to send all the federal resources they need as we respond to this emergency. And I mean all the federal resources. And we're going to rebuild that port together.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, all of it. And then a reporter even was like, hey, did I just hear you correctly? Did you just really say what I think you said? Because that's odd. And good for this reporter to do like an immediate follow-up. A lot of the times it just goes right over people's heads and they don't understand the context of this. But this reporter managed to ask this question. Wait a second. Did I hear you correctly, Mr. President? Watch.
The federal government's also going to pay for the repairs. I'm just curious. This was a ship that appears to be at fault. Is there any reason to believe that the company behind the ship should be held responsible? And then also you mentioned
we're going to pay for it to get the bridge rebuilt and opened. What did you?
That's interesting.
It's an amazing response to have first thing in the morning. Like, it happens at 1:27 a.m.
Yeah.
First thing in the morning, the Biden administration already has a response to this. And they also in that same press conference said nothing to see here. Okay. Well, as one of our favorite Twitter accounts, Cat Turd, pointed out, the bridge collapsed at 1:30 a.m. By 8 a.m. the next morning, all officials had done an investigation and determined it was just an accident. 4 hours later, Biden hit the mic and said taxpayers would pay for the full rebuild. Nothing to see here. Pull my finger. So maybe it is nothing, right? Maybe we just foot the bill and then you pay us back, right? Why shouldn't the Biden administration just cover all of these accidents now immediately? I seem to remember BP's Deepwater Horizon oil rig disaster being paid for by BP, right? I seem to remember Exxon Valdez in Alaska, Exxon having to foot that bill. In fact, Exxon had to pay a record amount of money for that disaster, by the way, under the EPA. According to the EPA, it was a record $1 billion back in 1989 when this all happened. So this bridge collapse killed 6 people. Killed 6 people. Did the Deepwater Horizon, how many people were killed as a result of that? How many people were killed as a result of Exxon Valdez? How many people are suffering as a result of the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment? But the federal government steps right in to cover this. 6 people killed as a result of this. And now they're calling off the investigation or the search to find these other individuals in the water because the water's so cold. There's no according to them, there's no chance that they would have survived, according to the Coast Guard. So 6 people dead, enormous environmental concerns with chemicals, vehicles, shipping lane that will now be shut down indefinitely. And the government says, we got this. Nothing to see here, move along. But that seems to be the least of the oddities, if you can imagine that. Like, that to me stands out as a real bizarre set of circumstances. But the real question is this, as the New York Times asks, why did the ship hit the bridge? It's not known, according to the New York Times or the Baltimore Sun or any of the major publications. The National Transportation Safety Board said it is investigating. So we'll have to wait, of course, until we get that official NTSB response. Here's the Baltimore Sun, though, this afternoon. Clayton Diamond, not to be confused with your humble host of Redacted, Clayton Morris. Clayton Diamond, executive director of the American Pilots Association, confirmed that the ship had a complete blackout and lost power to its engine and navigation equipment a few minutes before the collision. It never regained power, Diamond confirmed via email. I spoke to a ship's captain this afternoon, the United States military, who also confirmed that the likelihood of the ship regaining power was, when you saw the flickering lights, it's likely the backup diesel generator that kicked on to provide some lights on board, but this was not enough to power the ship. So confirmation from the Pilots Association that power never returned to the ship. Once it was out, the lights you saw flickering there was no recovery. There was no shipping, there was no steering power, and there was no engine power. So even though you see the lights, that was just to help people see on board. As we reported yesterday, they would have been a Chesapeake Bay harbor pilot on board directing the ship out of the port, which is standard operating procedure. We now know that there were 2 on board, in addition to the 20-person crew that was on board. They called a Mayday call, of course, after they lost power. Construction workers were able to save a lot of the lives by stopping the flow of traffic across that bridge. So you might say to yourself, why would they call a Mayday distress signal and alert the bridge crew and the construction workers to get people off the bridge? Why would they send out a Mayday signal if they were trying to kill people? Right? I think that's what our minds, if that's some sort of a terrorist attack, then they're trying to kill people. And they're trying to cause mass casualties, so why would they send a Mayday call? If they had no control over the ship and individuals piloting the ship had no control, they were unable to steer, and of course they had no power.
Well, that's assuming that they were doing it on purpose, not that something was being done to them.
Which we'll get to in a second, right? Because if this all comes down, all this comes down to, as journalist Laura Logan confirmed with intelligence sources today, that this was, in fact, a cyber attack. So they would have called a Mayday. They're Americans. They're trying to save people's lives. They would have, our ship just lost power. What the hell's happening here? Mayday, Mayday, we have no control over our ship. So this, as
which isn't totally plausible. You know, when you see these hacker competitions, they can hack cars. They can hack elevators in your hotel. They can, I mean, everything is hackable. So I don't know the technology of a ship, but it's not really a stretch to think that they could.
I'll bring this up again, but 10 years ago, when I was still at Fox News, I went and did a segment in Pittsburgh with a head of security at the time. I forget exactly what organization. Anyway, they were showing that they were able to hack these cars. Every car is now hackable. And so they had...
Not Phillips. He refuses to drive a car with any computers.
So I got in this car. They hacked the car. And they were sitting in a parking lot while I was driving the car. They hacked the car and they took over control of the car and they drove literally the car into a ditch. And they were sort of laughing about it. We were, you know.
You sure that wasn't
funny.
You that drove into the ditch?
No, I was actually trying to hold it onto the road, and I was scared that they almost hit a tree, and I could have been. We were going fast too. They accelerated and they drove me off the road into a ditch, and I had no control over the car. Afterwards, I was kind of pissed because like you literally, I was almost hitting a tree. Like you could have killed me. Like anyway, so that was 10 years ago.
Right.
Think about the technology advancements now. Anyway, so this is what Laura Logan confirmed with her intelligence sources inside the Biden administration and outside the Biden administration. This is brilliant, she says. A well-planned strategic attack on one of the most important supply chains in the United States of America. Why are you coming to the microphone telling the country that it's not terrorism, she asked, when your own intelligence agencies are telling you that it is? And she's confirmed this with her own intelligence sources. Listen.
And here's the other thing that's concerned me. Why they run to the mic, had McCabe on this morning on at sunrise on CNN saying it's not terrorism, it's not terrorism, it's not it might not be terrorism. But why do you come to the mic right away? These are the type, we need facts, we need empirical evidence, we need an investigation. What is your investigation telling you?
Well, I have a better question for you, Steve. Why are you coming to the mic telling the country that it's not terrorism when your own intelligence agencies are telling you it is? And I know they are, because I didn't make this up. These are not my words, right? I'm talking to people who are on the inside, some who are on active duty, some who are retired, and everyone, literally, from critical infrastructure in Department of Homeland Security to the intelligence agencies, they know there's no other, this is a cyber attack on a critical infrastructure corridor for the United States.